Do you need to? You have to speak to your phone because of online. You have to move there. Yeah, go there. You want to use your phone? You've already joined via your phone. If you have already joined with your phone, you can. You. Yes, yes. Just welcome to Big Flesh. That's the disadvantage of this arrangement. So, okay, let the guest, okay, I need to block it. So how do we do it? Just go through. You can move the table forward, please. Move the table forward. Move the table forward. Yes, it's okay. So create space so that people can pass. So that people can pass behind you here. What's happening? It's 11 o'clock. What's the problem? You're already online. Is it not connected? It's disconnected. Let's start. Okay.
Good morning once again, everyone. We want to welcome everyone to another webinar in our postdoctoral webinar series. This is the Center for Housing and Sustainable Development, which is the Center of Excellence in Urbanization and Habitable Cities. It is one of the 6 centers that is currently funded by ARUA. And under the center, we coordinate research, cutting across very different disciplines, including housing, urbanization, infrastructure, health, ecological development, spatial data, land governance, and urban management. And we have in our list people who have joined us from across the institution, across Nigeria, across Africa, and across the globe. Before we call our presenter this morning, we'd like to welcome our founding director in the person of Professor T.G. who also does the honor of welcoming those honorable guests who have joined us online today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You want to clap? So, we just want to thank God for today. Dr. Precious, be with us for a while now, and on this ARUA's postdoc program for early career development. A big shout out to ARUA for this great opportunity extended to them and to scholars across Africa. So we want to appreciate his stay with us, and the webinar we have today is part of the deliverables. Quite, she's here with us, and we are very happy and grateful for the attendance of Professor Isaac Odio, the Vice Chancellor, Kababi University, Kenya. Thank you so much for finding time. The Vice Chancellors are very, very busy, and we really want to, we don't take it for granted. We want to appreciate your finding time to be with us, to listen to a scholar that have done your university proud. She's contributed very well. She's represented the university very well. She has left impact and footprint in the heart of many postgraduate students that she has supported within the time that she spent here. We are so proud of her, and we are so proud of the university that has produced such a scholar. thank you for finding time to be with us. And thank you also across the world, in Africa, in Nigeria, as many that have joined and will soon join. Well, thank you. We want to say that we are in for about 40 minutes presentation. I assure you that it's going to be an enlightening session. So put on your seat belts and really enjoy the flight. Thank you so much. You are so much welcome. Over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. So we'll invite Bola, who will be the profile of Dr. Precious.
Good morning, distinguished scholars and academics.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I'll be reading the profile to this presenter, our bundle of inexhaustible questions, Dr. Precious. So, Dr. Precious Joan Wapuka is a distinguished historian and senior academic with over 6 years of university teaching and research experience. She currently serves as an Arua postdoctoral fellow at the University of Lagos and is a senior historian and lecturer in the Department of Social Sciences at Kibabi University, where she is recognized for her impactful scholarship, mentorship, and academic leadership. Dr. Wapuka is among the few young women in the field of history in Africa to attain a PhD at the age of 28, a milestone that reflects her exceptional academic excellence, dedication, and intellectual leadership. She is affiliated with the Council for the Development of Social Science Research in Africa, CODESRA, through the prestigious AFRIAC Fellowship Program, funded in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation. Beyond academia, Dr. Wapuka has collaborated with the Presidential Office of Kenya in organizing a major national conference on technology-facilitated gender-based violence among women in Kenya, contributing to national conversations on digital safety, women's rights, and policy advocacy. Dr. Wapuka has published extensively in peer-reviewed journals, edited volumes, and influential international platforms, including Democracy in Africa and Daily Nation. Through her scholarship, mentorship, and public engagement, she continues to champion African-centered knowledge production, peace building, and transformative leadership across the continent and beyond. Please join me as we welcome our bundle of energy.
Distinguished scholars, researchers, and colleagues, and my postgraduate students. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure standing before you. I'm really honored. I don't take it for granted. Presenting to you a title that is very vital in our society, that is harnessing historical indigenous women's voices in peace building and sustainable development. For centuries, indigenous women have historically played a vital role in peace building, conflict resolution, community governance in African societies. And mostly these contributions have been undermined. The contributions have been invisible in the historic records and also in the policy framework of Africa and also the nationalistic policy framework. More so, the intrusion of the colonialism, which disrupted our governance system, and specifically, it disrupted our indigenous knowledge system. Despite these disruptions, indigenous knowledge system among women in regards to peace building continues to linger on. Women have adapted these ways to enhance social cohesion in the society. Therefore, this study explores continuity, resilience, and the relevance of indigenous women's peace-building knowledge from the pre-colonial, colonial to the present epoch. Now, we need to ask ourselves important questions that touches on key concepts. Who are indigenous women? Indigenous women, these are people in our society who have put a lot of effort in preserving our culture. This culture touches on language, memory, and narratives. And they don't only preserve this culture, but they also pass it from one generation to another. And in the community, or in my country, Kenya, in Swahili we say, mwacha mila ni mtumwa. If you move away, or if you disown your culture, you become a slave of other people's culture. So women, indigenous women, play a role in preserving this indigenous knowledge system touching on peace building. Another concept that we need to operationalize is, what is peace building? Peace building involves prevention of conflict, promotion of reconciliation, social justice, social harmony within communities in Africa. And why do we say we prevent conflict? Because in a heterogeneous society, conflict is unavoidable. It's unavoidable because people struggle over resources, people struggle over primordial attachment. That I am, for example, a Hutu of Rwanda, you are a Tutsi of Rwanda. But lucky enough, such things no longer exist in Rwanda. But in other communities in Africa, they still exist. And therefore, we need to prevent conflict using strategies that are context-specific to the society. And that is indigenous knowledge system. Above all, how do we sustain it? That is sustainable development. Sustainable development, in this particular study, it has been operationalized, meaning we are meeting the needs of the society, the indigenous needs of the society. And at the same time, we ensure that these indigenous needs are not compromised. They can be translated to the future generation and therefore sustaining peace and leading to a sustainable development. Because I believe there will be no sustainable when there is conflict. What are you sustaining when there is conflict? There will be no economic stability. There will be no political stability. Therefore, sustainable development, indigeneity, and conflict, they are interconnected. African indigenous knowledge system for centuries have been idealized, romanticized by scholars from Eurocentric world. They perceive indigenous knowledge as less legitimate. In fact, they put the indigenous knowledge system along the periphery. And also, when it involves women, it wasn't the situation. It is demeaned and seen as a utopic discourse. The situation worsens with the persistence of epistemic colonization and neo-colonization, especially with the current yellow people from Asia. It threatens IKS because it tends knowledge system in global discourse and also global development of the world. Despite all these challenges, women have shown resilience and continuity in utilization of indigenous knowledge system in peace building, and they further go ahead to pass the information, the knowledge from one generation to another. And that has been done through the following platforms. We have oral tradition, we have songs, we have proverbs, and folk tales, and so many other platforms that we shall delve into understanding. And this argument is further grounded by researchers such as Wangari Maathai, who focuses on the role of women in environmental stewardship. He analyzes how women's participation in environmental sustainability can lead to sustainable development. We also have a scholar such as Johan Galtung. His work delves into understanding positive peace. What does positive peace mean? It means you are including women in the table where decision-making process are done. We have some women who are in these tables, in these boardrooms where decision-making process are done. However, they are there to be seen. They do not participate fully. They are there to be seen so that the society can be seen as an equal society, and there is no inequality in that case. So it is just a visibility criteria, not a functional criteria, not a criteria that is practical. So we need to move from that, as Johanna Galtung says, positive peace, meaning including other people and also enhancing social justice. By doing this, we need to understand that women are embodied with resilience. Women are embodied with knowledge system that can offer practical solutions to challenges affecting our societies, such as conflict, climate change, societal and other societal fragmentation challenges. At this particular point, why does this conversation matter? This conversation matters because in this contemporary period, right now, all of us, or most of us, understand AI, ChatGPT, Gemini. In fact, recently I was asking Professor Nubi that, is ChatGPT a male or female? Because I'm a gender person. So it's an ongoing discourse, and it is there to stay with us. And this AI continues to shape the future of Africa. And it is shaping the future of Africa in various perspectives. Economically, it's shaping it, the markets. Politically, it's shaping it. And also socially, it's shaping it, especially regarding these studies, the indigeneity of the people can be preserved through artificial intelligence and digitalization. All these are opportunities. However, my perception is that this AI can bring out or can lead to a technologically facilitated colonialism, a technologically facilitated new kind of colonialism that is more sophisticated than the previous colonialism that we experienced. We have scholars such as Benjamin, who echoes the same. She says that AI system can reproduce historical inequalities and epistemic exclusion, especially when the marginalized communities, when the indigenous women are not part of the technological design, when indigenous women, their voices have been ignored in data production. So, empowering women is not an option, it is a necessity. Empowering women will contribute significantly to peace, environmental protection, and community resilience, despite their voices being utopic in policy spaces and leadership spaces. The epistemological underpinning of this research is grounded in two theories. We have indigenous feminist theory. This theory was propounded by people from the West, but I will mention the propounders from West Africa to be specific. For example, Oyewumi, who is one of the propounders of this concept of indigenous feminist theory. And this theory states that it's pertinent for indigenous communities to reclaim and validate histories and cultural memory through particular actors such as women. And by doing so, we have also to pass the same knowledge from one generation to another. It is not enough to have the knowledge without preserving it. Because at the end of the day, the griots, we call them griots, or the go-go, the grandparents, the grandmothers, very soon they will die, and they will die with the knowledge. So it is upon us, young generation, to embrace indigenous knowledge, as it is stipulated by indigenous theory and also indigenous feminist theory that emphasizes the place of women in this particular discourse. Another important theory is the decolonial theory. Decolonial theory counterpoints or critiques the dominance of Eurocentric epistemologies. Why? Because for a very long time, these Eurocentric epistemologies, imported ideas about Africa, they tend to undermine the culture of Africa. For example, their oral tradition as a way of preserving knowledge. And you can see Jan Van Sina, a scholar, who emphasized the importance of using oral tradition in preserving our knowledge as Africans. And therefore, it is upon us to ensure that we reinstate our place in the academic discourse, despite the fact that we have Eurocentric ideas and knowledge regarding our cultures. This study is was grounded in a Sankofa methodological approach. Sankofa methodological approach delves into understanding the past, the present, the future that transforms the society. And by doing so, we are also unraveling silent histories that touch on the role of women in peace building utilizing indigenous knowledge system. Data was collected from communities in Kenya, that's primary data. Secondary data was collected from books and policy from Nigeria and also South Africa. Lucky enough, I've been in these two countries recently, so I was able to have some informal observation. I cannot say formal because I didn't get research permit. Informal observation. And as researchers, I think informal observation sometimes plays a big role when you're formulating a topic and also identifying a gap of certain research. This study was guided by two principles. Number one, Ubuntu. Number two, relationality. These principles shaped this research. It shaped in a way that I was able to critically analyze the works and the studies from Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria, understanding their interconnectedness, and also some cultural similarities, shared humanity, and that is very pertinent and important in knowledge production. Above all is axiological part. Axiological part was pertinent in a way that I utilized the indigenous knowledge or indigenous methodological ethics in preserving and also data collection, which involved co-creation. Co-creation was incorporated. I involved communities in my discussion. Communities were at the center of knowledge productions. Participants were the knowledge holders. And I moved away from the normal way of doing research that is very extractive, where you don't care about the community. For me, as an indigenous scholar, I focused more on the community, and we co-create knowledge together for the good of the community. This study is divided into 4 thematic areas. The first one is pre-colonial, as I mentioned earlier. We have pre-colonial, colonial, post-colonial, and contemporary period. In the pre-colonial period, we have scholars such as Eyumi, Amadiume, who note that African societies had gendered governance system. And this gendered governance system, women played important roles touching on conflict resolution. For example, diplomatic roles, social political roles. And this shows that African continent, African communities were matriarchy in nature and not patriarchy in nature. And this can be seen in communities such as Yoruba, Igbo, Fulani, Samburu, Zulu, and others, where women played a pivotal role in peace building. And what does that mean? It only means that women rely on their knowledge. And this knowledge is based on experiences. Experiences about the healing of fractured relationship in the society, preserving cultural memory, and also promoting existence within community. And sometimes in our African societies, your mom can tell you something and you can take it as a joke, but it's very serious. For example, she can tell you that, you know what, in that family, those who don't marry from that family, those people are witches. So women have the power to shape the future of our youth. So we don't take it for granted. Instead, we need to embrace it and critically analyze it. So I will look into the following approaches to peace building in the pre-colonial period. Number 1 is beadwork as indigenous peace building practices. Beadwork as indigenous peace building practices. As much as beadwork is aesthetic in a way among women and men, beadwork carries important aspects. 1, beadwork offers a symbolic language of peace, identity, and reconciliation. For example, the Samburu community of Kenya, women use beadwork to communicate peace. When they put on beads with white, it only means they want peace and unity. When they put on red, it means bloodshed. They are ready for the war. Therefore, we are seeing that women use beadwork artistically, again, communicatively. Among the Fulani communities in Kenya, they also use beadwork and adornment within a social network of abanaya to strengthen kinship ties. And at some point, they could give a loaned cow to the neighbor and etc. So, and in that process, they used beadwork as an accompaniment, and women were at the forefront. In South Africa also, we are seeing communities such as Zulu, Amazulu, Soza, Amasoza use beadwork to communicate social identity, life transition, and also Ubuntu, Umuntu, Ubuntu, Gabantu. So these principles are pertinent for coexistence in the society. Now, ritualism. This is very interesting and pertinent in our society, ritualism, because the African ways of life, especially social life, most of the time it's propelled spiritually. In Nigeria, I don't know, it's juju and all that. It's spiritual. So, for example, in East Africa, where I come from, we have night runners. I was shocked that here in West Africa, night runners are not there. But in the country where I come from, as in East Africa, we have night runners. These night runners move from one door to another at night when they are naked. And by doing so, it is not normal. They have spirituality in them. And this spirituality is passed from one generation to another. And you hear people in the village saying that, you see, the father was a night runner. Also, the son is a night runner. So that spirituality is similar to ritualism. Because for you to be a ritualist, you must have spirituality that is passed from one generation to another. And therefore, ritualism is deeply embedded among the women in these communities, whereby they practice reconciliation, healing, and restoration. For example, among the Adikuyu, whereby they embrace Kuthera as a form of rituals, and it was led by women, and also Chira and healing practice led by women. Similarly, among the Yoruba, they have Ebo, a ritualistic offering, and also Bori, a spiritual cleansing. You'll find out that women play important role in these particular activities, and yet they have not been efficiently documented. We also have in South Africa where they have Okuzolelena, meaning forgiveness. This Okuzolelena means forgiveness and restoration of the community social cohesion. And it was normally done by women elders in that particular society. Now, the songs, quite entertaining, and stories. I'm sure each and every person here has ever interacted with a grandmother or grandfather, and you have been told stories. Maybe they have told you stories, folk tales, sung songs. These songs, they are not just songs. These songs have meaning, societal meaning, indigenous meaning. They have values in them that we need to embrace. Therefore, oral traditions are a living archives of peace, knowledge, and they provide moral instruction, and they restore historical memory. For example, among the Samburu community, women tend to sing to the men before they go to war. And you know how they sing? They sing in a form of mockery. They mock the masculinity of men so that they can be enticed to go and fight and to go and attack other neighbors. And it still goes on up to now. At the same time, we are seeing the bifaceted role of women. They can sing to bring peace, to appease peace, to restore harmony between Samburu community in Kenya and also their neighbors. So women play bifaceted role whereby they can exacerbate conflict, at the same time they can restore peace in the society. And that can be illustrated with communities such as Babukusu, who have utilized Chingano as a way of teaching coexistence, as a way of warning against violence. Similarly to the Igbo women also, they participate in dance, not only, and those dances are accompanied with songs to show communal values and also to maintain social harmony. In South Africa, communities such as Basotho, Amasoto use praise poetry, Izibonga, and Imilolozelo. These are lullabies, and these are used to maintain peace, knowledge, and also cohesion in the society. Despite all these initiatives by women, beadwork, singing songs, ritualistic activities to maintain social cohesion, the colonial period and also colonial administration in Africa systematically restructured indigenous governance system, and in a way that it replaced the indigenous governance system with the male-dominated authority system in Africa, that is the chieftaincy. And now, these women in communities such as the Luo and Kikuyu, they were pertinent or important individuals in mediation, important individuals in also conflict resolution. They were no longer important because this chief bypassed them. They bypassed them in a way that they were not included in important decision-making process. They were seen less important. And this affected the participation of women in peace building in the society. Now, the worst of all is in the northern Kenya, where the boundaries were introduced. And these boundaries that were introduced affected cattle raiding, intensified conflict among the communities. And when the conflict intensified, the structures of women peace builders were already weakened, and they could not participate effectively in peace building. They could not participate in solving disputes that touches on resource sharing and also reconciliation. Similarly, in Nigeria, the British colonial rule disrupted the Igbo's women's political structure, known as Umwada assemblies and Mikiri systems. Women collective authority in conflict resolution and governance was undermined through imposition of these chiefs, authorities which excluded women. In South Africa, we are also seeing the same trend where women among the Zulu, the Xhosa, who previously influenced disputes, conflict resolution, were also sidelined with the colonial government. In fact, they focused more on looking for money and also participating in labor system so that they can provide enough money for their communities and also have some for the taxation. And we have scholars such as Ayomi and Gasheni who talk of colonial governance system by saying that this kind of system was not only there to control resources, no, it came also to interfere with our governance system, more specifically the gender relational governance system, where women were placed at the periphery and men became the central leaders in matters pertaining decision making. Despite these disruptions, indigenous women's peace role continued to persist, and it continues to shape the society through oral memory, rituals, vigor, and community mediation across Africa. And this demonstrates the resilient nature of IKS among women. Now, in the post-colonial period, after the end of colonialism, you will realize that the legacies are still there. The communities are still living in those legacies of colonialism. However, these communities navigated through by ensuring that their culture lingers on, by ensuring their indigenous knowledge system lingers on, especially the women in these particular societies. The women in Samburu community, the women in the Zulu community of South Africa, and also the Xhosa community. They ensure that these approaches, these modus operandi of peace building are restored and they are also preserved. Similarly also to Yoruba through the institution of Iyalode Market Association, which strengthened social cohesion in the community. And this is a demonstration of continuity despite the colonial challenges, despite the modernization, despite the legacies. In the contemporary period, we are seeing resilience whereby these communities, indigenous women, continue to use storytelling. They continue to use peace songs, bidwa, as a form of enhancing social cohesion. However, right now, we have emerging issues in the global world, such as globalization, urbanization, and also the formalized state system, which is a threat to indigenous knowledge system by women and also the younger generation. And more so, these particular trends continue to marginalize IKS, and it can be reflected especially in emerging epistemologies and also other colonial epistemologies, where they place Africa at the latter as utopic, as less important, as stories of the past, stories that do not bring change in the society, stories that are not important in sustainable development. Despite all these challenges, indigenous women's lived experiences and community-centered approaches continue to provide culturally grounded solutions to challenges in our society. Medical challenges, conflict challenges, climatic challenges, and so many other challenges that can be sorted with our indigenous women in the society. And we realized that even before the coming of colonialism, we were solving these issues. We were using herbs to solve medical challenges. We were by women. We were using women in solving social disruption in the society and also disagreement in the families. Therefore, this contemporary period requires us to approach indigenous knowledge system by women with a lot of caution, because the issue of documentation comes in. Who documents it? And who preserves it? If you are using AI to document or digitization to document, who has the access of a logarithm in that particular AI? It is the Westerners. So we need to approach it with a lot of ethics to ensure that we are dealing with this decolonization effort ethically and maturely as Afrocentric scholars. So, roadblock to women empowerment. What's happening? African communities, the structures that were interfered with by the white people, the Eurocentric scholars, the colonialism, have placed women outside. The legacies are still there. It's still men who are dominating in peace-building process, in decision-making process, and this affects women empowerment. Number two, insecurity. In this modern time, it's not like the pre-colonial period. In the pre-colonial period, the conflicts were cultural conflicts. At the end, they restored harmony. For example, cattle raiding was culturally facilitated. It was not meant to be violent. But now, with the introduction of lethal weapons, modernized weapons, conflict has been taken a different trajectory. Conflict has become violent. Conflict has intensified. And this weakens the place of women to effectively participate in this decision-making process and peace building because they are vulnerable. When it reaches this point, women run away from their lives and they run with their children. We also have economic marginalization, as men are fighting between with other communities. For example, these fights are still there in our country, in northern Kenya, where communities such as Samburu and Turkana, they still continue to fight up to now. When they are fighting, women are busy at home, focusing on children, finding ways to survive, and also to extend the economic stability of the home and also of the society. Patriarchal norm, which is a colonial legacy, also continues to restrict women from participating and voicing their ideas. So, what is the way forward? We need to strengthen and recognize the voices of indigenous women in peace building and development policies at nationalistic level and also at the African continent level. Number two, we need to enhance women's participation in formal peace structures and align it with the policies such as the African Union Agenda, Africa We Want, 2063, and also the United Nations National Development Goals. We also need to promote ethical documentation, putting into consideration the voices of indigenous women in co-creating knowledge. We also need to support community-based peace building by leading and ensuring that community at grassroots level have the required structures, and also these structures should be functional in that particular community. Because we can have all this knowledge, these are just theories, but we need to implement and also support the community. And more so, we need to also ensure that we utilize digital technologies. Digital technologies will help us preserve our culture. However, we need to do it with a lot of caution and also take into consideration ethics because of the scavengers, the knowledge scavengers from the West and also other parts of the world. Investing in education also is very important. We need to sensitize the communities' importance of preserving this knowledge, importance of passing this knowledge from one generation to another, rather than keeping it to ourselves. We also need to encourage co-creation, whereby the societies or the communities should be part of the knowledge production, rather than the extractive method where it places the society outside the specific knowledge production process. In conclusion, Eurocentric approaches have often narrowed sustainability to economic indicators, statistical models, climate metrics, and policy frameworks, overlooking the deeper cultural dimension of sustainability, such as heritage preservation, IKS, and community memory that are essential for long-term development in Africa. Reclaiming indigenous women's voices is both a matter of historical justice and a practical pathway for sustainable peace, which leads to sustainable development. And this can be achieved through integrating Ubuntu, Sankofa methodological approach, relationality principle, co-creation that strengthens inclusivity and culturally grounded development approaches. And to ensure that these particular approaches are functional, we need to align with the United Nations SDGs, the African Union Agenda 2063, that reinforces the global relevance of indigenous women's knowledge for transformative peace building. Thank you so much. Asante sana. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, sorry. That's a foreign language.